Today's presentation is the long-awaited grid ad. It works great, it's beautiful, and we will just dive right in. So I'm going to show you guys, I'm going to start out by just showing you how to access, and then I'm going to be working with two different forms. A simple form just to show you kind of recover how to get the embedded report on your form. And then I've already got a template set up with everything laid out. So then we can just get into some of the background aspects without me building out a report, so to speak. So starting out, this is a feature for dynamic templates. And you're going to, in this particular case, I've got my template set up to my employees table. It's only set up to one table because we're going to be doing a embedded report. I'll go ahead and throw my employee ID over here. There's that. Let's make it bold. Then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to look for the report link. So let's see. I've got my search going on, so it's filtered out everything that says employees. So now I'm just going to type in assets, and that'll bring up my report link. I'm going to make sure my cursor's where I want that field to drop. There it is. So this is the setup. When you are selecting your report, you're going to go with tabular. This is a tabular function. Same thing with grid edit. Of course, you've got the ability to do your filters, groups, sorts, but it's these checkboxes right here that we're going to be focusing on. So for grid edit, it was checking, hey, I want this report to be editable. So then to do add, we're going to check add records. And when you check add records, you're going to see this other checkbox appear, and it gives you the ability to remove the records that you've added. So one thing I want to clarify, and we'll see when I hop onto the other template, removing records, you can only remove the records that you are adding. You cannot remove existing records. So just make that clear for everyone. Even if you have the edit function, you can go in and edit existing records. But as of right now, we have not opened up that ability to delete existing records altogether. So just to add that clarification. But once you click add records, scroll down, click done. You would click save, and in this case, I need to go in and then start building out my report. I'm going to hop over to my other template because I've already done all that. So here is the template that I have where I've already, applied the fields that I want. So opening up this report, you can see I want this to be editable. I also want to add records, and I'm going to go ahead and click this remove records just so we can see what that looks like. And click done and save. So I need to remove this. I'm going to go into my app, open up my form. So when you are building this out, this is going to be an update button, just to make that, state that as well. Even though we are using the function of adding new records, we are going to be adding those new records to the parent. That doesn't probably sound the best. If you do a submit button, because that submit button is going to be on your parent, it would then be assuming, oh, you're creating a new parent and you're adding new records to that new parent that doesn't exist. So with this use case of adding new child records to an existing parent, you're going to create an update button. Does that make sense?
And actually, I'll just add that there is a process, different process for, let's say if you have a form and you say, I want to create a parent and I want to create some number of children at the same time, then you can do that. That's just a different form setup. You have multiple target tables,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can, relate them, and that works as well. So if you have a blank form, but this is the case, as you're saying, the use case here is you already have a parent record, um, and you have an embedded report, you're creating a report of embedded children. You want those children to be editable. You also want to be able to add new child records to that parent in the same form. And so that's what we've got here. And go ahead. So that's what you're showing.
Yep. So now I've brought in my report, or my form, I should say. You can see where the records that I had that are existing. So there's 4 existing employee assets. They're all editable because I had the editable checkbox checked right here. Now to add a new record, I'm going to go in and say insert asset activities. Fields that are required are still going to appear red. I'm going to, after we get done demoing, I am going to show you a couple of background things to do in CSS. So for instance, the calendar, we're releasing a fix, deploying a fix here soon that will automatically have this calendar show up directly above your date field. Right now it's not. So I'm going to show you guys, for anyone who's building forms right now, how to make that happen until that fix is deployed. But we're going to go ahead and select our date, just go through, populate. I'm going to say let's do report lost, testing, grid, add, go through, you can do, let's say 250. Now, file attachment fields. So you can apply file attachment fields. You cannot do signature fields because of this being in grid add, grid edit. You do have the ability to do a file attachment field, just not that signature piece. So just kind of keep that in mind, but we'll see what that looks like. So I'm going to.
And actually, I'll just add that on a form like this, usually you would have someone sign it on the form level and not the child level anyway, or the parent level. And so let's say you had this whole form, and if you needed a signature, then you would do it at the parent level, and that would work just fine, but just not at the individual child line item level.
And I'm going to work. I do have it set up to show everyone that as well, what that would look like.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that's just another field in the parent record. So everyone can probably imagine this form as something that has its kind of parent record information at the top, like you have, and then it's embedded child line items. And then if there's a signature, then the signature would probably be, at the bottom, below the embedded report or somewhere where they're signing for the whole thing. And you can certainly do that. But yeah, and as you're showing here, then you can add multiple. They can add as many child records as they want, one at a time. Go ahead.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so when I mentioned this remove records, this is what it would look like. So here you can see that I've added 2 new records. Those new records, as of right now, are just falling at the bottom of the report. So you're going to see, up above, we've got, an estimated cost total. The new records for the time being are just falling to the bottom. And then that remove record, this is what it enables or how it displays. So it allows end users, if they are looking at this before they click update and they're like, oh, wait, I don't want to add this credit card record. I'm just going to go over here, click X. It removes that record. So now we're just going to be adding one new record, July 2nd for parking pass. I'm going to say update employee asset. Now it has on the print or the generated PDF, it's thrown that new record into its grouping on the report. It's updated our total, so that's all great. And then if we go back in refresh, now you're going to see the replacement for the parking pass. Oh, it was my first record that had the file attachment. That's why the file attachment didn't come through. I deleted that record. So that is what this removal feature looks like. If you don't check that, then the X won't appear. End users, once they add a record, they can't remove a record. If you don't want them to edit, you say done. We go back in just so you guys can get a good look at the functionality as a whole of this. So now you can see and go in, add. We'll actually do a file attachment field this time. Let's say parking pass. We're going to report it stolen so we get a new group. We're going to apply update employee asset. Now you can see there's our new record, our new group. Our file attachment field did come through. Let's refresh. And there you go. And then in this particular case, for the use case that I have set up in here, I do have an update asset request button on each individual record that would take you to the form, where then if somebody needed to apply a signature, they could, or to Scott's point, you could have the signature field at the actual employee level and they would just, they would sign that employee signature field, might be down here somewhere. One other thing that I will show you guys, let me clear out of some of these tabs. So another feature is this download report. This checkbox allows the end user to download a CSV report CSV report of all the child records that are in are in the child table. So just to show you guys what that would look like. So then you can have your data in an Excel sheet if you need to, for working with it. So if I go in, and instead of going through and actually doing anything, I'm just going to go up into the URL, update, and change update to print so that it'll quickly get me to the print version of this. And now you'll see, so this download asset activities will only show up on the print version of the form. Click that. And now, well, it's going to open on my other monitor.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's just opening on my,
Oh,
and it's not letting me move it
that's fine. I mean, it's
over.
yeah. I mean, everybody. This is just like Quickbase, But there was a use case, and this was a customer request that where you say, um, you know, sending someone, they've got a form, it's got line items in it, maybe could be lots of line items, an embedded report in that form or in that output document. And so a lot of cases, it's not for their input necessarily, it's output. And they say, okay, there's all these line items. How do I get that data? I've got a PDF, but I don't have the data. Well, if they logged into Quickbase, if they were a Quickbase user and they went in to get it, then you can go to the table, you can go to that report, then you can hit export to CSV. But hey, someone who has that form and they just say, you're giving me a list of data in this and I want it. How do I get this out of this without just instead of just a PDF? And so this is it. So if you had this list, which could be much longer, and the user needs it, they either have to key it out of the PDF if they want to get it into a spreadsheet or into some other format, or they can just push that button. So that was the reason for that, is to when you have maybe a good amount of Quickbase data here for a user that may or may not be a Quickbase user. If you send this out to someone, you as a builder can enable that download button so that your users can get it if you think that they might need it. So there were use cases for that. Actually, I was also going to add while you're here, just two things for everybody. And um, you know, in this version, or when you're editing this, you've got the parent record, like the employee name and the employee ID, editable, and the children editable at the same time. That doesn't have to be true. You could have the parent record doesn't have to be editable. You might just have the child records editable, and you say, I don't want them to change the parent, but I'll let them change or add to the line items. So you've got those choices there. The other thing is, um, you've got an embedded report, but let's say that it doesn't have any children. You're looking for the user to add the children, the line items. So that's possible too. So when she's creating an embedded report in that dynamic form, it doesn't have to have any records to start. It can be blank and just with the ability to add records. And then all they'll see is that kind of format, the date of request, asks the headers, and then the insert asset activities. And so they would be creating child records where there aren't any. So we call it grid add, and it is, and grid edit, and it is, but it could also start with no child records, because there are use cases where you might send them the parent record, like the employee record, and they start adding line items themselves. Could be materials. You can imagine an order where there's the bill of materials, or the elements of an order. You can imagine a bill of materials for something that's consumed or built or assembled. Um, you can imagine purchase line items, all kinds of things like that, where you got the parent record and you want your user to create the children when there aren't any children. So maybe there are some and they're adding to it or editing it, or there aren't any children and they're just going to start creating children for you and submit it all together.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I'm going to stop here. There's a couple of other things that I'm going to show, just kind of behind the scenes. Some of it is in the source code, also just customization of some stuff. But before I dive into that, just checking in with everyone and see if anyone has any questions about the grid add and stuff that I've demonstrated thus far. All right. Well, let's dive into some customization. So I talked about this.
Oh, Ashley,
Yep.
sorry, there was one more thing.
Yep.
Before you get off the screen, can you show, there's another, I mean, you have, when you pull up your report, then, you can configure are the embedded children editable? Can the user add new ones and things? You can also right click here and so you can get to it there. That's one way.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another way to get there. See if this works. If you right click there on the add form button, and then the next one, actually, nope, that's not right. Um, huh. There was another way to get there. If you clicked in the report body, if you right clicked in the report body and then,
All I know is double clicking, Scott, unless
yeah,
you,
no, there was
yeah.
something. Right click in the report body again there. Maybe I've got this wrong. I thought that there was right click there. There it is. Okay, add report button, insert record. That's another way to get there. If you just say, uh, those are also inserting the download report and insert record. I think we're going to change that label, but that also configures it. It's a quick configuration of that to add records. So it's just another way to get there for builders reference. Yeah, so see, it did it again.
Okay.
So it added that set button. The button was already enabled, but it added it again,
Yep.
which didn't
Yep.
make sense in this case. But if you didn't have it and you just did that right click in the report, you'd have a couple of options and you could add that button. So it's just another way to get there.
Got it. All right. So, starting out, I had talked about this a while back, but I'm gonna just talk about it or demo it. Um, so when you are dealing with dynamic forms, you have the ability to, in my previous office hours, we talked about like removing the navigation bar and stuff like that. Um, or customizing the navigation bar and what appears in the navigation bar. But in this particular case, you can see that my navigation bar is gone altogether. So I want to add a button for update because that's all I want. So here's my update button. This is what you're going to get, just standard. It'll just say update, but then you can go in and you can actually customize what your update button says. So if I want it to say, like I had update in asset, employee asset update. So you do have the ability to do that. You can do a update button, a submit button, and what's the other one? A print button. So just to kind of, mention this again, for dynamic forms, you do have this capability. Um, to remove the buttons, you just put your cursor inside the button, highlight the, well, highlight the text and just remove it. And that removes your button. That's how you do that. Um, and then So that's talking about the buttons that you have available. Let me update. So earlier I had mentioned the calendar. So we do have a patch that will be coming out soon for this. But as of right now, let me find where that is at. Hold on. So that you guys can kind of see what's going on. Um, so this is standard code. I click save. Let me refresh. So right now, if I go to add a new asset, um, well, it held on to it, which would be, Well, okay. I will take it holding on to that. But if at any point um, you are building a form and your calendar does not appear directly over the date field, just so that you know, a solution that you can do until the patch comes through. Say your calendar shows up here or is running off of the page. What you can do is find in the source code, you would just go down to your body and you would find that field. So in this particular case, I know that this stretch of code right here is dealing with my date of request. So my date field. You would go into the TD style, which is this first section inside this quotation. Just put your cursor. This is the code that you would apply. So it's positive, relative, and then put a semicolon there. And that will bring the calendar directly above the field that it's pertaining to. This recording, I'll send it out to everyone, but just some helpful notes and tips. So there's that. Just something, like I said, to keep in your back pocket until that patch comes through. And then the other thing that I wanted to share with everyone is, so standard, well, I went in and I changed the alignment of several of these columns. So, date requested, asset request, request type, estimated cost. A lot of these I changed to center alignment. And when I did that, it took the grouping as well and pushed it to the center of this light gray row, which just, to me, everything about that felt off. So the fix for that in customizing your forms, if that happens to you, there is this code. So at the bottom of what is standard for your source code, you can come in and start to apply styles. So in this particular case, I applied dot report summary TD, and then I wanted my text alignment left, but then applying this exclamation important, that says that, hey, this style functionality is important or above everything else that's going on. So make sure that you do this first. And then also, so I'm going to take this one out for a second. All right. So when we built out the whole embedded report functionality, we do give you, and well, I should say the grouping functionality. So on your report, when you have the ability to decide how it's going to group or filter or sort, if you decide to group the data in your report, we automatically give you the ability to see the summary. So number of records per that grouping. And this is how it comes out, which is perfect. It's fine. It works. But again, the more you know, the ability to customize your reports, so forth, it's just helpful. It gives you the ability to do so much more. So in your source code, again, applying styles that fit the need that you have, you can go in and I'm going to do a new squiggly bracket, put that code back in there that I took out. So this is saying my summary title, the padding to the right, and I put 10 pixels. I think that's a little too much. So let's do a little more. I'm going to say 25 pixels. If I go into source, click save, And now when I refresh, you can see it took that number, the summary number, and scooted it much further over to the right. So that's just something that I also thought might be helpful for going in and customizing how these embedded reports display. So, talking about how to move your grouping headers over to the left while your columns are center aligned, how to put some spacing in those summaries, and then also, going in and being able to change or add update buttons. Just little tricks and things that you guys can play around with to help you along the way while you are, customizing your reports.
Yeah.
So
That's a good example too of working in the code to get what you want. So a lot of that functionality or a lot of that formatting can also be done in the no code interface. As you know, Ashley, I was just telling for the others, you just have to go into kind of the element at the bottom. So like in your builder, and this is where my skill comes up short a lot of times, but you can be you could be formatting a particular at the page level, at the paragraph level, at the table level, at the table row level. There's a whole list of things. So if you're clicking somewhere there, you can see those at the bottom. So if you want to format something at the page level, there's at the button level, right? There's a good chance that you can do it on the no code side uh, by doing the styles here on the left. And whether that's a fixed style, so like the drop downs for styles, if you were trying to format the page and you were trying to do something to the entire page. So there's the page sizes, for instance. That's there because you can change your page sizes and the way they display on your dynamic forms. And then there's the styles, which basically the same thing Ashley was doing. Not everything is there, not all, because there's so many CSS, and that's where custom comes in. So when you click custom, then you can type in your own styles. If get into a particular CSS code, let's say in formatting control, that is not in our standard drop down list. And there are hundreds of those, right? You can go out there and format for all kinds of things. So you can work in the interface here without getting into the source code if you're more comfortable. But it's back and forth, because when you make a change here, it's basically going to put the kind of code into the source page behind it that Ashley was showing. So it's 6 of 1. However you're comfortable getting there to format the different elements of these pages. And as you can see, the dynamic forms are a lot more powerful. They're also more complex in how you format different things. And that's just HTML, and then we're trying to make it as easy as we can with this editor, so that you can work. You don't have to work in the source code, because I couldn't myself. But you can create these dynamic, highly formatted HTML forms, generally without code, right? Or getting into the source code if you're comfortable with that. And then with all the Quickbase fields, embedded reports, records, uh, as part of it. So just gonna add that, Ashley. Thanks.
yep, yep,
That'll look great. That was a great lesson. Thanks.
absolutely. Thank you. So that is what I have to present today. I'm going to open up the floor for questions, or if there's anything that any of you guys would like to go back and look at specifically. Just floor's open.
Ashley, this is Rich. I have a question on dynamic forms in general.
Yeah.
I have a user who is a serial submitter. He has a lot of receipts and just wants to use the form and hit submit. Go to the next one, hit submit, hit submit, and not have to reinitialize the form.
Rich, you're breaking up a lot. Sorry.
Let me try again.
If you don't mind, some of it was going in and out. I think I get the gist, but if you don't mind, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. When you hit submit on a dynamic form, I want to be able to recycle that and go to the next record right away without having to recycle the form. Is there a way to do that?
When you say go to the next record, is that
Create
so?
a new record.
Okay, so right, so just add a new record, fill it out, hit submit, and go to right back to the uh, add a new record form.
Yes.
Okay.
Would anything,
If it's just add new record, Ashley, couldn't he just put a link to the add record form in the form that would be, or in the success message that says click here to add another record?
that would be the most simplistic way to do it, Rich. So if you, for now, redirect will also get you there once we wrap up testing. But if you are in your dynamic form, I'm gonna backtrack, click on options.
Yep.
And then open up the options section under template. And then you have this source message display custom message after the form has been submitted. And in here, to just the submit link. So
I'm sorry, you broke up a little
my
bit. Can you
form
back
is
up
not
then?
the best use case for this, but if I, copy this URL, right?
Hey, Ashley,
And then I go
We're just seeing your
to my
browser,
options,
Ashley.
click on options, go
We're just
to
seeing your browser,
success message,
Ashley.
and let's say,
Hey, Ashley. Sorry, we can't see, your screen's not keeping up. Could you hear me? Here we go.
click on this link, or click on the link below, and then paste your link. And I mean, there, you can get into making this look much nicer, Rich. It's just the proof of concept. Click save. And then, so if I go in here, I'm going to fill one out real quick, just so we can get the idea. We'll leave all that blank. Click my update. And where's my custom success message? Did I not click save?
Huh, that's strange.
I didn't refresh. That's the issue.
Oh, yeah.
It was like, I didn't refresh my, hold on, Rich.
Yeah.
Is it because it's an update and I'll submit?
No, I didn't. Once I saved, I should have refreshed my actual form.
Okay.
And I didn't refresh it. So my form that I had loaded didn't take the change that I made to the template. And I'll throw something in here. And then if I go up here and I click update, there you go. So again, you can use the ability, Rich, to customize how this message appears so that you could actually make it a link versus a text. Because as of right now, they'd have to go in or she would have to go in, copy this URL, paste it in the browser. You can't actually make this a clickable link. But this would be your quickest way to do that, Rich. When redirect comes out, there will then be the ability but you'd have to be kind of careful with it because you could get stuck in kind of like an endless loop. But there would be the ability to apply the template, which would just be your, submit. You would apply that formula URL field into the redirect section, which I'll show when we release this. And then that way, when they click submit, it would save that record, show it, and then take them right back to the new blank form to fill out. It would just then be a thing of once they got done, they would just have to exit out of the tab altogether with that redirect.